everyone. I am glad that we are all here. Today we're going to be making bread. And the very first thing that I want to do, because I always forget this step, if you have just a rectangle baking pan, this is not for the bread, mind you. We need to fill up a pan just like this with just an inch full of water and put it on the very bottom shelf of your oven, inside the oven. And I'm just saying, let's do that from now because Miss Mandy will definitely forget. And what this is going to do when we get to the baking of our bread is going to add some moisture to that bread in the oven. And like I said, it is the most forgotten step. So I got my pan, rectangle pan with an inch full of water, and I'm going to put it, I'm spilling. I'm going to put it on the bottom shelf inside my oven, and that's going to add moisture to the bread once we get to it. And I just made a puddle of water on the floor, but we'll get to that too. And just let me know when you guys got the pan with just the water in the oven. And we're not turning on the oven or anything at all at this point. We are just putting it there so we don't forget it later on.
We have the water at the bottom.
You have the water in the pan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let me get my camera on here. And definitely ask mom for help because even me as an adult, I spilled like half the water out of my pan on the floor. So ask mom for help. But let me switch to my oven. See, flip my camera around. All right. You see, the very bottom shelf, I have my pan of water, and on the top, I'm gonna put my bread when we get to that part. And we're not turning on the oven as of yet. Okay? So next, hopefully everyone got gloves. Did you guys get gloves? Remember gloves? Let's give a thumbs up to the camera if you did. If not, it's okay. Okay, Amaya got it. All right, I see Ms. Jackson got so. So the next thing that we're gonna do, well, I'll wait for everyone to put on your gloves, whoever has gloves. Okay, I see we're ready. We're ready. And if I'm going too fast, just slow me down. Tell me wait up. All right. So next, the very first thing for our bread is we need 2 cups of warm water. And hopefully you guys were able to also get the thermometer. If not, that's fine. We're gonna try to, work it out somehow. So we need 2 full cups of warm water. You could either put it in a microwavable dish and try to microwave it to get it to the, hold on one second. That's fine, Marie. Just answering a text there or a chat. All right, so 2 cups of water. I'm actually gonna put my water in a pot and put a little heat under it and try to get my warm water that way. The only scary part about doing it that way is that I might get the water a little bit too hot. But I'm a bit comfortable with doing it that way because I have a thermometer. So I'm gonna make sure that I keep checking the temperature as it heats. And if you were able to get the thermometer, make sure that you set it to degrees Fahrenheit, not Celsius. That's a whole other metric system. And we're actually trying to get our water to 110 degrees, which is just warm water. So if you don't have a thermometer, don't freak out. We'll get there. And just let me know how you guys are doing.
What do we do with the warm
We're
water?
putting the,
Wait, unmute Amaya. I didn't hear you.
we're putting the 2 cups of warm water in the pan.
Yes. Well, eventually we're gonna move it to our bowl. So if how are you heating up your water? Are you microwaving it?
Yeah, I can microwave it.
Okay, then do that. Probably give it like 3 minutes in the microwave, and then we could check the temperature and see how it is. But as soon as we get it to 110 degrees, which is pretty warm water, that's when we're gonna put it in whatever we're mixing our bread dough in. Like I have a huge bowl, but that's the next step. For now, we just gotta heat the water, and mine, I'm actually already seeing steam in my pot. It does not take that long for water to get to 110 degrees. Yep, mine is even over now. So I'm going to take off my fire, and I'm gonna wait for you guys to let me know when you get your warm water ready to go. Hopefully that'll give mine some time to cool down, because like I said, when you use the hot on the stove method, the water heats rather quickly. So I'm taking it from the flame.
My water is 110.
Awesome. How about everyone else? Can we give a thumbs up if we think our water is to temperature? Amaya, yours is probably still heating up if you guys started just a second ago. So I know. How about Ms. Jackson? You're muted.
Ours may take another minute.
Okay. Are you doing it in the microwave? Or are you like heating it in a pot on the stove?
We're using a pot on the stove. It just takes
Okay.
a little second for it to warm up.
Gotcha. Yeah, mine, I think what I did is I put the cover on my pot so the water got heated really, really quickly. So mine's like at 120 degrees, but it's all good.
Stop somewhere. Stop. You have to pay attention. Careful.
All right, so I think we're just waiting on 2 people, and just let me know when you guys got that water to temperature. And again, if you don't have the thermometer to tell you what 110 degrees is, it's just warm water that we're looking for. And for those of you who already have your water ready, go ahead and put the water in whatever, like I would say a large bowl if you have. That's the best thing to use to measure or to mix our bread in. And I'm gonna reuse my pot for something later. So.
Mommy, how is this big enough? This side is bigger than this. Oh.
Chef Mandy.
Yes.
So I'm trying to get us switched over to his tablet so we can have a bigger screen. Right now we're using us watching you from the phone. Okay, so it let us in. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So just waiting on you to let us in. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I just let you guys in. For some reason that the passcode wasn't working for everyone. So glad you guys were able to get in.
Perfect. So let's switch over to a bigger screen.
And okay, I think by now everyone got their water ready and your big bowl ready to add our other things. If so, the next thing we're gonna grab are our packets of dry yeast. Now, technically we need about 2 tablespoons of yeast added to our warm water. I know offhand that 2 tablespoons is 1 full pack of the yeast and a half a pack. So that'll save you from even having to measure. So first I'm gonna add my 1 full pack.
Do we add it in the big bowl?
Yes, correct, with the water. You're adding the yeast to the water right now. 1 pack and a half of dry yeast. All right, so I got my yeast in there. And the next thing you want to grab is sugar, plain old white sugar. And we're just gonna put 1 tablespoon of sugar into our water that we just added the yeast into. So let me try to get my camera closer so you guys could see. And of course, you just let me know if you need me to slow down. All right, so recap, I got my bowl with my warm water. I added 1.5 packets of the yeast to it. And then I just added a tablespoon of white sugar. And then the very last thing that I'm gonna add to water is you wanna grab plain regular salt. And we're also gonna do a tablespoon of salt in there as well. And just stir it up. And remember, this is the regular salt because I think that the instructions we told you to also get kosher salt. That's for something else. If you have it, we're just using the regular salt that we use every day. Okay, are we all caught up? We got our water, yeast, sugar, salt.
Are we supposed to mix it?
Get the measuring cup.
Oh wait, what's that?
Are you supposed to mix it?
Yes. So you see my water, how it looks? I've added, yeah, you just stir it up. So water, yeast, sugar, and salt.
How much sugar do we put in again?
How much sugar? That's what you said, sugar?
Yes.
Is one tablespoon. Yep, so that's the big round measurer that says TBS on it. Tablespoon. And last element is gonna be our flour. So you should have all-purpose flour. And just a moment. Okay. So, and this is why I put on gloves in this instance, because when I'm doing bread, I like to feel the texture of it because technically my recipe calls for 5 cups of flour, but it depending on the texture, it might use less. So what I do is I add 1 cup of flour at a time as I am, let me get my camera down. Okay. As I am mixing it with my hand. So for those of you that don't have gloves, you could grab like a spoon or anything you think that'll help you to mix it. But I prefer using my hands with my gloves on. And so far I add my first cup of flour and I give it a stir. I add my second cup of flour and give it a stir. And again, keep in mind, we could use up to 5 cups. It all depends on the texture. Right now, I got a real wet dough. That's not what we want. So I'm gonna add cup number 3. Make sure I'm stirring it in nice. Oh yeah. And you know that you got the right temperature if your dough that you're feeling is nice and warm. That's cooking that yeast in there. Okay. As I have added my 4th cup of flour to my dough, I'm starting to feel like as if my dough has enough flour. So I would say, yep, I even have excess flour. So I would say just stop at 4. I don't know how everyone else is looking, but this is my dough so far. It's solid. I just added 4 cups of flour altogether. Don't do the 5. And now, I don't want to overwork my dough, which means because at the end, I'm going to be doing more with this dough. So as long as you have a nice, solid piece of dough, just stop mixing it. And then I'm going to move to the next step. But I need you guys to just unmute and let me know when you got your dough, like a nice round ball, just like Miss Mandy has in her hand. And remember, you don't have to mix it too much because we're gonna mix it after we allow it the dough to rise. So we're gonna get a chance, another opportunity. All right. Oh, Jonathan, that looks perfect. So I'm just waiting for Maya and Mrs. Hodges, little girl, to let me know when you guys have your dough formed. Okay, good. All right. So next thing, we are gonna grab our olive oil. And let me see. The oil isn't really meant to be mixed into the dough. It's just meant to, like, you pour a little bit on top of the dough. I'd probably say a good tablespoon would do it just fine.
Are we forming it into a ball in the bowl?
Yeah, the olive oil, you mean? Yes.
No, the
You're
dough. You want it into a ball in the bowl?
Yes. So you see how mine is in the bowl?
Oh,
Just keep
okay.
it in. Yeah, just keep it in the bowl. And then right now, I'm just gonna pour just the tiniest little amount of olive oil on top of it. Probably a tablespoon, not that much at all. And we're not mixing the oil into it, mind you. It's just on top to coat the top with the oil. And then the next thing is we are gonna grab a few sheets of paper towel, and we're gonna damp the paper towels with, I would say probably 3 or 4 sheets of paper towel. And we're gonna damp the paper towel with warm water. So just go to your sink and get your water to nice and warm.
Are we supposed to wet the paper towel?
Yes, you got it. So go ahead and go to the sink and make sure that your water is nice and warm. And then you're gonna wet the paper towel. Not cold water, but warm water. And then I'm gonna wring out the extra water so it's not like completely dripping. And that wet paper towel, we are gonna place over our bread dough. Just over it completely. It's gonna cover it. And what this is gonna do is gonna activate that yeast even more and make our bread rise. It's gonna increase the size of our bread dough. So once you got the paper towel on, just leave it just so. And we're gonna set this aside and work on something else while we allow this bread dough to rise a little bit. And again, make sure, I can't stress this enough, the paper towel, make sure it's warm water that you're using.
Did you mix the olive oil in the ball of dough or just pour it on top of it?
Nope, just pour it on top.
Okay, leave it on.
It's
Okay.
Yeah, it's just on top, and you just, I rubbed it with my hand.
How many paper towels did you use?
I used about 4.
4, okay.
But I kind of have the cheap kind, so if you have the good kind, you probably just need 2. But I have
Okay.
the one that's really, really thin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's get this. Quit touching it.
Okay. And you guys just let me know when you're ready to move to the next step. After you get that paper towel on, like I said, we're just gonna set the bread dough aside, and then we're gonna start working on that marinara sauce while we allow our bread to rest for a little bit.
We have the paper towels on top.
You do? Okay, perfect. Then just put the bowl aside.
I'm ready.
So it looks like this, like the paper towel is covering your dough, right? On top of the dough. All right. If so, the next thing we need is a pot. So we're gonna do our marinara sauce.
So you have your, I got it, look. So you have your pot.
And with your pot, if you could grab a measuring cup that says 1/4 cup.
Did you wring the water
Which
out
is-
the paper towels?
Oh, you're at the paper. What did you say? I'm sorry.
Did you wring the water out the paper towels?
Yes, because there's
Okay.
gonna be a lot of excess water. So we
Okay.
just want a damp paper towel, basically.
Okay.
And don't worry about the timing for the rising. I know that someone just chatted that question. I'm monitoring the rising part. It really depends because the person asked how long does it take to rise. It can take 30 minutes, but like I said, we're all working differently. Like if your water was a little bit warmer than mine, it might rise at a different time, but it's okay. I'll keep track and I'll let you know what it should look like. But in the meantime, we're gonna make our marinara sauce. So you guys just let me know when everyone is all caught up, where you got your paper towel over the dough and you set that aside, and then we can move on to our next thing.
Know you're ready?
I'm ready.
I hear you. I don't know. Look at it. Why am I paying more attention to you? This is your class. I'm just here to help. I'm the helper. And what they call the sous chef. Waiting for her. We're gonna make a marinara sauce. Be careful. That's why you don't play. I know you're hungry.
So everyone that is ready to roll, then make sure you get your pot, sauce pot, and a measuring cup that says 1/4, which is 1/4.
And we're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, so go ahead and grab the olive oil. We're gonna put 1/4 cup of olive oil into our pan or pot.
Pour it in.
And turn on the heat to like a medium high, I would say. Not super high where it's gonna burn everything that we put in next, but medium high.
You put 1/4 a cup of olive oil in the pot.
Yeah, you got it. 1/4 cup of olive oil in the pot, and turn on your heat to like medium high, not super high, but medium high. Okay. And I would say after you get that oil in the pan, go ahead and open your can of crushed tomatoes. We're not putting in the crushed tomatoes now, we're just opening the can. The reason for this is when we get to the time that we actually have to add the crushed tomatoes, we're gonna have to add them really, really fast, because at that point, we're gonna have our garlic in the oil and our onions in the oil, and those are gonna be cooking rather quickly. So we gotta slow down the cooking process once we get to that point. So like I said, just open the can of crushed tomatoes and set it aside. Do not put it in the pot as yet. And I am hoping, was everyone able to pre-chop the half of an onion? And it's okay if you guys decided not to use onions at all. But if you have not as yet chopped the onion and you want to use it, go ahead and do so, because that's actually going to be the first thing that we're going to add to our oil. So you want your onions to be like at a really, really tiny dice, so it could blend in nice to our marinara sauce. And this oil shouldn't take but probably 3 minutes to heat if we're all at medium high flames. Ms. Jackson, you're muted if you're trying to say something.
I was supposed to put the onions in.
Okay, that's fine. That was gonna be the next step. So I hope that your oil is hot enough. Do they sound like they're cooking?
Yes.
Okay, good. And I'm gonna add my onions to my oil as well because my oil is nice and hot. Again, we don't want the oil too hot where it's gonna like burn the onions right away. Just a nice medium heat, medium high heat.
So we'll put the, go ahead, put the,
And mine might actually be a little bit too hot because mine is really frying up a storm.
put the onions. Put the onions.
Okay, it'll probably take 2 minutes for us to get the onions to where we want to get them to. I just lowered my heat because I realized that it's frying pretty hard and fast. So, all right. If you have your onions in, just continue to stir it because if your oil is like mine, it's gonna try to cook it really, really quick. So stirring it will slow down that cooking process a little bit. And then the next thing we want to grab is our garlic. And with our garlic, we need a teaspoon measurer, which I gotta find. I thought I had one. Okay, I got it. And but this is a part we gotta be careful about because as soon as you add this garlic takes like probably less than a minute to cook. So that's why we wanted to make sure that we at least have our canned tomatoes opened, because here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna add 3 teaspoons of garlic into our onions. And it's just gonna take a few seconds for those garlic to actually cook. And we're basically gonna add the tomatoes before our garlic burns. So hopefully everyone's at the same step as I. I'm about to add my garlic. Is anyone not ready to add garlic? And I actually lowered my heat a little bit. So my onions just turned brown, which they're not supposed to. Like 1 or 2 of my onions turned brown. That means that they overcooked a little bit. So I'm putting 3 teaspoons of garlic into my onions. 3 teaspoons of garlic. And already, I just put my garlic, and already they are cooked. It just takes a few seconds. So now is when I'm gonna add my full can of crushed tomatoes into the same pan with the oil and the garlic and the onions. Because I need to slow down the cooking of the garlic. I'm gonna stir it a little bit. And don't throw away the can of tomato or the empty can that has the crushed tomatoes, because we're actually gonna fill the can with water halfway.
You did the whole can of tomatoes, right?
Yes, correct. So I just poured the entire can of tomatoes into the pot. And now with my empty can of tomatoes, I'm gonna fill it halfway of just water in that same can. And this is when we kind of monitor. I'm gonna slowly add water to this marinara sauce, but we might not use that full or the half a cup of water half handful of water. We're just gonna keep an eye on it for now. I'm gonna turn up my heat just a little bit because as I added those tomatoes, it cooled down everything. So right now everything's at a standstill. Now, if you ended up getting the basil that was on the list, I couldn't find fresh basil. I tried 2 stores and I completely gave up. But so I'm just gonna use a dash of dried basil. But if you were able to get the fresh basil leaves, we want to put 3 whole basil leaves into this pot. Don't chop them up or anything because at the end, once the sauce is cooked, we're going to remove the leaves. And it'll be easier to remove if they're whole, not chopped.
If there's basil. That green stuff on top, I think that's basil.
Okay. I'm lowering my heat a little bit. And now I'm gonna add my first dash of water to my sauce because it's super thick right now with just the tomatoes. So hopefully everyone's at the same point where we have our crushed tomatoes and it's coming to a boil or a slight boil, hopefully.
Unmute it for me, unmute it.
Mommy, it's already unmuted.
Chef Manny, so if we got the fresh basil, how much should we use?
Just 3 leaves.
Thank you.
And don't, like I said, don't chop them or anything because they'll be easier to remove if they're whole. So just put 3 whole leaves in there. And then the next thing we should have is dried oregano, which is the spice, should be green stuff in like a spice can, oregano. And we're just gonna add 1 teaspoon of oregano into our pot.
The tomato was cooling down. Hey, no stir. No stir. You stir.
Yeah, you could continue to stir the sauce. I would say you don't want it to be coming to like a full boil because what happens is it's gonna start like popping and the sauce is gonna go all over the stove. So if you see that you're if you see, oh, that's my dog in the background. Hold on. So if you see that your sauce is bubbling over, like it looks, that's when it gets a little dangerous. You want to lower your heat a little bit. Right now I'm gonna add my 1 teaspoon of oregano. And in looking at my sauce, I didn't add the full half a can of water as yet because I'm slowly adding the water as the sauce heats because I don't want it to be completely watery. So far I just added a little bit. Like right now, this is good for thickness. Let's see. And you should have kosher salt, which is a thick grain salt. And for that, we're gonna just put 1 teaspoon of kosher salt into our sauce.
feel like we're just making soup.
I gotta clean my measurer a little bit.
Did
And
you say
if you
one?
don't, oh, what's that?
Did you say 1 teaspoon of this oregano and the salt?
1 teaspoon of the kosher salt, just 1 teaspoon. Whenever we're making sauces, just so you know, you could very well use regular salt, but for some reason, when you use this thicker kosher salt, it slowly blends into our sauce. So that's why we usually use it just ends up with a better overall flavor. So I just put the 1 teaspoon of kosher salt into my sauce. And the final spice would be just a half a teaspoon of black pepper. If you're not big on spice, then you don't have to put any black pepper at all.
How much black pepper
But
did you say?
what's that?
How much black pepper should we put in it?
Just a half of a teaspoon. So not a full teaspoon, a half of a teaspoon.
Just putting it all out.
And again, for the people that don't like spice, if you don't like spice, don't put the pepper at all. Okay. Let me see how my sauce is looking. And at this point, I'm gonna take a quick little taste of my sauce just to see if I need to add any more salt. This is kind of where you be the judge.
I'm not trying to burn my mouth. You do it. You do it fair. Fair.
And if you added the basil leaf, if you actually, your true flavor won't come up for a few minutes because that takes a while. But I'm gonna give mine a test. Mm. I don't need to add one thing to mine. So I'm gonna just lower the heat. Now that I have all my seasonings and what have you in there. I didn't even use all the water that, you remember when I told you to fill the can halfway of water? I didn't even use all my water because the sauce is thick enough to me. It's just it's really a just in case that we fill a half a can. So I'm gonna cover my pot and lower the heat just for a little bit and allow those flavors to intensify on their own. How's everyone's sauce looking? I hope it's looking like it should be a nice thick red sauce, marinara sauce.
Ours seems to be a little thin. It tastes good, but it seems to be a little thin.
A little, oh, you might have added just a little bit too much water. But it's all good. Just lower the heat and it should thicken a little bit.
Okay.
Really, a cook's trick is if you have cornstarch in your covers, you could probably add just a half a teaspoon of that, and that'll help the sauce thicken a little bit. But if not, it's all good. Just, just let the heat do it.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, right now would be an excellent time. Go ahead and turn on your oven to 400 degrees. This is perfect timing because in a second we're gonna actually grab our bread and get that into a pan and get it ready to be tossed into the oven. But for now, we're just gonna keep an eye on our sauce. And I'm just putting up these things that we're using in the meantime as my sauce cooks. Save me from cleaning up later.
Are we done with the olive oil?
Yes, so we don't need that at all anymore. And I would say my sauce probably has like 4 more minutes. At this point, my sauce is thick enough. It's just a matter of getting those flavors to pop a little bit. The seasonings that we put in and what have you.
If yours start popping, do we turn it off?
Yeah, is it? Oh, yeah. You might have your flame a little bit too high. If it's like bubbling over that kind of way, like.
It's on low. And it's
Oh,
popping.
okay. Oh, you know what? That could actually mean that it might be too thick. If it's on low and it's popping and look at the texture. Do you think it's like really, really thick?
It's liquidy.
Okay. Let me, do you have a way of bringing your camera to the pot so I could actually see it? Like safely doing it? If not, then it's okay. Ooh, yeah. That looks like a done sauce. So I would say just take off the heat completely.
Okay.
I like that one, Jonathan. That sauce looks good, man. And let me walk over to my bread. Or my bread dough, I should say. Yeah. Mine rose a little bit, but not that much. So you guys take a look at your bread. Does it look like it got a little bit puffy? That means that it rose.
Yes.
Okay, good. Mine might actually need a little more time. If anyone's able, can you show the camera how your bread looks?
Do you want me to take my paper towel off of it?
Yeah, let me see how it looks. I'm trying to see if it looks like it rose a little bit or not too much. Ooh, that looks like it rose a little bit. Anyone else? Amaya, how's your bread dough looking? Oh yeah, that looked like you could definitely tell when the yeast was activated. Your bread looks a little bit more fluffy. And when you actually touch it, it should be a lot soft to the touch than it was before.
Is it supposed to be sticky too?
Well, we're not too sticky. Like are you putting your hand on it and the dough is like sticking to your hand? Because
no.
if the dough, okay, good, then that's fine. Because yeah, the only problem is if you see that dough is sticking to your hand, that means that you need to just add a little bit more flour. But it's okay if it's okay. So right now our marinara sauce is completely done. Everyone should be done. So I would say just completely take off the fire from your marinara sauce, and just leave the pot on the stove there. It's finished cooking. And as for the bread, go ahead and grab the dough. And what happens in the time that we had this dough rising and relaxing, air bubbles get created for some reason. So because of this, we're going to just mix our dough a little bit with our hands again to get rid of those air bubbles. Because what happens if you do not knead your dough like I'm doing it, and by the way, if you find that your dough is really sticky, like it's sticking to your hand or glove, then just sprinkle a little bit more flour on it, and that'll help. It shouldn't be sticking to your hand. But anyway, the reason why we knead our dough after it rises is because we're gonna get rid of those air bubbles. I don't know if you ever tasted bread or had like a piece of thick bread and you just see a bunch of holes in it. It's very unpleasant. So this is what we're doing. We're getting rid of all of those. And it doesn't take much. I remember one time I let a bread rise so much, it has so many bubbles that you could actually hear them popping as I'm like rolling the dough. I'm like, wow, thank goodness for rolling the dough a second time. That would have been some holy bread. So my dough is just about ready. Doesn't take much at all to get those bubbles out. And the next thing I'm gonna do is grab a loaf pan. And we just need one loaf pan, I think. Because I originally I thought we might be able to spread the dough into two, but nah, it's just enough for one. It's perfect. So if you have a loaf pan, you're gonna want to spray it with the pan spray. And that's gonna help our bread not to stick to the pan as it bakes. And you guys just let me know when you got your pans ready. I want to make sure we're all on the same time in here. Pans nice and sprayed.
Did you spray both, or did you spray the loaf pans?
Just one pan.
Okay.
I know that initially I said to grab two on the shopping list, but we only need one because looking at this dough is perfect for just one pan. If we spread it to two, that's gonna be like a flat loaf of bread and it's just not gonna come out right. And just gonna grab one more glove. I just got into the habit of anytime I'm making bread is using my hands because I rely on the texture that I feel in my hand as opposed to using a spoon. So I'm actually gonna just pick up the dough and put it into my greased pan. And if you have a dough that's sticking to your hand, again, just add a few sprinkles of flour to it. And it'll be fine. So mine's in the pan. Gonna spread it out to be just nice and flat. Ooh. I added a lot of oil. It just splashed up at me. And hopefully by now everyone's oven is preheated. And actually, for the adults in the room, go ahead and grab a knife. Adults only, grab a knife, and we're gonna just put 3 lines on top of that dough. Depending on my dough, well, My dough is a little moist, so it wouldn't even make any sense. But if your dough is like thick enough, let an adult put just 3/3 lines on it, and it'll just help it to look a lot better at the end. Is everyone's bread in the pan?
Yes.
You go. Okay. How about you, Amaya? Bread in the pan? Thumbs up? Okay, awesome. Okay, so actually, the very last thing we do with it before we put it in the oven, if you were able to get the pastry brush, we're just gonna dip our brush not in butter. I know everyone's probably thinking, why don't put butter? Nope. We're actually gonna dip it in water and brush the top of our bread dough. And all this technique does is it's going to help this bread to bake really, really nice. So right now I just brush the top with a little bit of water, and I'm not gonna stick around when everyone's bread bakes. So I'm gonna, and my oven just said it's preheated. So I'm just gonna give you the instruction. So you're gonna put the pan in the oven on the shelf above the water. You remember we had that pan of water that we had in the, that we put in the oven in the beginning? So you're gonna put the bread pan right above. See my water pan is at the bottom, my bread is at the top. Now, I'm gonna set a timer for 35 minutes. Now, this doesn't mean that the bread's gonna be done then. This is just the minimum time. So go ahead and set a timer for 35 minutes. And then once that timer goes off, you gotta check your bread. And I recommend checking it by, you could stick a toothpick in it and make sure that the toothpick comes out clean with no wet dough. Parents, you could use a knife and stick it in there and make sure that the knife comes out clean. That's how you tell if the bread is done. So again, just set the timer 35 minutes, then check it. If it's not done, then I would say you give it an extra 5 to 7 minutes and just keep monitoring it. Just keep checking it. Okay, because after the 35 minutes, it really depends on our oven. Some of our ovens would like cook it really, really quick in 5 minutes, or it'll still need more time. So I'll just say, just keep an eye on it, really. Okay. So I hope everyone's okay. Can I get that everyone's bread is in the oven? So I could leave. Okay, awesome. I got a thumbs up. I got an, I don't see Amaya. I don't see Jonathan. I see Jonathan's mom. Okay. Okay, awesome. Okay, bread in the oven. Amaya, how you doing? I just need to know that your bread's in the oven.
Yeah, it's in the oven.
Okay, awesome. So please keep an eye on it. Please keep an eye on it. Okay, so 35 minutes and then just keep watching it. And you guys know I love pictures. So send me some pictures of the end product so I could post it on my Instagram, Facebook, and what have you. And definitely follow my Youth Center page so you guys could keep up on the next class that's coming up. I haven't quite yet put it together as yet. It's been a real busy week. But, you know, just keep following. And of course, it totally voluntarily. If you want to add a donation or anything, you could go to the website, which is divinesoulsyouthcenter.com, and add any donation of whatever choice or whatever amount you choose. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this class. I cannot wait to see how the bread turned out and take pictures of the marinara sauce, everything when it's done, okay? You guys have an excellent Sunday. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Class over.
You're welcome. Bye.